Welcome back to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. The archives and load up some other talks that I've got of these Bob Earll cassettes. I've had them sitting on a hard drive for some time now. I've decided to share them with you all. Let me know what you think. Some people loved Bob. Some people hated Bob. Bob was Bob, but he talked all over the world. I mean, he's from Los Angeles, Beverly Hills area, and did other things. I think he was a writer. Just click down below, like or subscribe, or both, like and subscribe. Just click down below, like and subscribe on my channel. It helps me out. Just a little click for you, doesn't cost you anything, and I'm bringing you some Bob Earll. And have a good day if you want to.
I used to be his sponsor. I'm telling you this because there's a funny story. And after a long length of sobriety, 10 and a half, 11 years, I had a pill slip and almost died. I was taking 600 Placidil a month. And the reason I'm bringing this story up is that I've said that the people that are hardest on the people who have been around a while, the people that are hardest on the slippers are members of AA. And that humiliates me. You know, what step were you working on when you got, all that crap? And what they need is love and compassion and understanding. And I'm a great advocate of that. And after I slipped, and I was very active in AA in California, and I had a lot of babies or pigeons, and I was pretty well known, and it was very humiliating for me and hard to get back. And I want to tell you what happened. I had this pill slip, and I became psychotic. I didn't know who I was. I don't want to go into that because I don't want to take up Bobby's time. But what happened was I ran out of the house. I didn't know where I was, and they picked me up and threw me in the psycho ward. And Bobby came down every night. He brought me cigarettes. He never judged me. He never lectured me. I was too frightened to go back to where I was living, and I was living that time with a lady, and we had a little kid. And when I got out, Bobby took me to his house, gave me vitamins every morning, gave me a lot of tender, loving care, never preached to me. I want to repeat that. I stayed with him 10 or 12 days, and then he moved me to this other woman who was on AA. He moved my whole family with me, and I was able to get my strength back. I don't know if I would have made it back unless it was for Bobby. I don't know. That's up to God. But a few months later, I was reminded tonight, I called him. I wanted to have breakfast with him. And we had breakfast. Now I was 3 months clean and sober again. And he says, "What do you want, Artie?" I said, what the hell is this idea that I'm not your sponsor anymore? Can you imagine how insane I was? He says, "Because now I got more time than you." I said, "What difference does that make?" I was totally insane. Anyway, I'm very, very grateful for what Bobby did for me, and I'll never forget it, and I love him very much for it. And tonight your speaker is Bobby E.
I am Bob Earll. I am a drug addict and an alcoholic. Yes. Thank you. Take good care of that bear, man. There's nothing more important than teddy bears. Well, I'll tell one story on him, and then we'll get down to the business of making everybody uncomfortable. I adopted him as a sponsor when I was about a year and a half sober, and I'd written my third inventory after spending 5 days locked up in a house, unable to leave, in tears. Typical, emotional breakdown. But I think young people's groups have one advantage over other groups in that most young people haven't been confronted with psychotic splits and nervous breakdowns, so they don't know them when they see them, and so they just treat it as though somebody's having a bad day or two, It's like, oh yeah, no, I know he's been under his car for a week, but he'll get over it. It's all right. So in this state of mind, I wrote an inventory. I felt maybe the three previous ones hadn't been too thorough. And I took it to my sponsor. After writing for about 3 solid days, I had this book, and I took it to my then sponsor, and we drove around in the car out in Newhall, California for about 5 hours while I read this book to him. And I got all done with it, and he started telling me about all the problems he was having with his wife. And I somehow didn't feel complete off this experience, you know, like somewhere there was something lacking. So I made a list at that time of the people I'd least like to have know about me what was in that inventory. And in those days, Artie was a big shot AA circuit speaker. And as I was a fledgling one just getting started, I figured I wouldn't want him to know. So I called him up and I read this inventory to him. And he spent breakfast, lunch, and dinner with me for the following week. Every day I had to meet him for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We ate in Jewish delicatessens. And he'd walk me up and down Fairfax Avenue in L.A. telling me how by the time I was 40 years old I'd be king of the young people in AA and richer than God. I'm 50. I haven't achieved either, but... But again, it was love and support. So let's talk about it. I guess tonight's topic is going to be feelings. Really a popular subject in Alcoholics Anonymous. We never talk about it. You know, we only behave like we think we should behave. I mean, we're talking at dinner, Liz was saying, you know, we have this, somehow we draw up this mental role model of how a good AA would handle it, and then that's how we do it. Forget how we feel, you know, or what's going on. We create, it's like, there's an ad out now, a television ad, at least in Los Angeles, for care units, care hospital. I have no opinion on it one way or the other on the treatment facilities, but what you got is it's the one with the family and the elephant. Has anybody seen it? It's a wonderful commercial. That alcoholism is represented in this house by this honest-to-God, full-grown, real-life elephant, okay? And you have, like, the kid sitting at the dining room table, man, he's doing his homework, and this elephant walks through the dining room, right? And the kid just keeps on doing his homework like there's no elephant, you know? And the wife is out in the kitchen at the sink, you know, where most good co-alcoholics spend the time when the shit hits the fan. And she's doing the dishes, right? And the elephant walks through the kitchen, right? And she just pretends there is no elephant. And it seems to me it's like in Alcoholics Anonymous, this is just my opinion, but it's like there's a point in most of our sobrieties, mine and at least a lot of friends of mine, where strange churnings begin to take place in sobriety. Unfamiliar churnings. The mind interprets these churnings as mass insanity, okay? You will reach a point in your sobriety, if you're like most of us, where I hit it in mine and my mind says, oh, you're sicker now than you ever were when you were drinking and using. Your chances of recovery, continued recovery, are going down daily. And it's like, as this churning begins to come, it's like I ignored it. It was like there's an elephant walking through my house, but I just pretended it wasn't there. And one of the reasons I pretended it wasn't there is it seemed that it came on me somewhere between 2 and 3 years. And my experience has been that by the time you're in your second or third year of sobriety, if you're like I am, you have created your AA personality. Now, this personality has nothing to do with real life or who you are. It's almost as if when you step out of your car in the parking lot, you put it on and walk into the meeting, you know. Hi, I'm Bob. Good to see you guys tonight. You know, it's fun to be here. Everything's cool. Let's have our regular meeting. And and part of the game is to maneuver, manipulate, and hang on so that you can be the last to speak. You just want to try and get in at 9:57, you know, to drop your most profound message of that evening. Yeah. And you have continued catchphrases that you use at work, and you won't change them, see, because a new one might not work. So now I found myself about 2 or 3 years into my sobriety stuck in this box where feelings are coming up. I have no idea what they are because I've never experienced them since I was a small child, because I was raised by alcoholics. And if you're raised by alcoholics, you're not allowed to experience feelings to any extreme most of the time. It seems that it's dangerous. What I have learned about, well, now I'll try and do this in some kind of order. I don't know why. Yes, whatever that is. Um, yeah, let me give the talk, okay? And then we'll talk after. The bear needs your attention more than I do. Oh, by the way, I want to say this. I am absolutely, totally knocked out by your birthdays. I have not seen as much collective sobriety in a room this size with this number of people in a lot of years. Okay? And I'm particularly impressed by all those with 6, 7, and 8. Seeing as how the majority don't make it past 5. Okay? I'm convinced today that no greater percentage of people stay sober over 5 years today than stayed sober over 5 years 20 years ago. Now we'll get to why. I had not planned on this kind of talk at all. I was going to try and make it charming and fun. Well, first of all, when the feelings began to come up, I mean, being raised as a kid by alcoholics, here's a couple of problems, at least as a man, that I ran into as a boy. The first one is when you're about 2.5, 3 years old, and you take your first header off the tricycle, right? You do a little Brody, down you go, you hit the pavement, you tear the skin off your knee. This is serious stuff, okay? You now see your own blood for the first time in your life. Not a particularly exciting moment in your life, and you're, you know, like most kids, you react with, you're just like, oh God, I can't stand it. So you drag this crippled leg into the house to Dad, who's sitting there in his usual position, sucking him up as normal, right? And you say to Dad, oh my God, I can't stand my knees. Hey, knock off the crying. I can't stand it. Hey, if you don't knock off the crying, man, I'll give you something to cry about. But I can't stand. Right? All right, they didn't give birth to an idiot, okay? I now understand, don't cry. Under any circumstances, do not cry. Now, like any good drug-addicted alcoholic, I managed to take this one right to the wall. I remember in about 1960 Lane and Georgia Street Receiving Hospital in downtown Los Angeles. They're getting ready to remove a couple of police bullets from my body, and I told them to take their anesthetic and shove it in their ass, right? My dad would have been proud. I fainted, however, when they were halfway in for the first one. That's all I remember. Fuck this. You know, wake me when it's over, man. And the other extreme emotion that you don't seem to be able to participate in a household where there's a practicing alcoholic is laughter. You cannot get on a giggling fit if you have an alcoholic in the house, because alcoholics are paranoid and they know who you're laughing at, right? So, in essence, what happens is a box is created. It's like about this big. And one of the things that I have learned is by being brought up in that box, man, it wiped out who I was. Any sense of who I might be. And you say, well, God, how does that affect you? And life goes on. Well, one of the ways it affected me as life went on, if I can't experience what I feel, I have no identity. I mean, I don't know, you know, people have a lot of, say, well, who I am. Well, I've come down to this conclusion after 23 years of sobriety and 5 years of therapy and 32 goddamn inventories and a lot of other things. I am what I feel. That's who I am. I've heard it expressed by a guy one time that the reality of a moment, the reality of who you are in any moment is what you feel. That's who you are. And if you're not allowed to feel that, your identity is gone, man. You have no identity. And I grew up with no identity. And one of the things it did to me is this. Every time I would walk into a room full of people that I did not know, had not been social gathering, business gathering, church gathering, it didn't matter. The first thing I would have to do is find myself a spot on the wall somewhere, get back against the wall, and watch this room full of people and see how they stood, how they talked, the level of voice that they used, how they shook hands. Oh, hi, Bill. Hi, John. How are you? He, you know. And once I got down how they did it, then I could move off the wall, step out into the center of the room, and I could stand like they stood and shake hands like they shook hands and speak like they speak. And the tragedy of that is the person I left on the wall was me. And all it said was very simply that whatever I am, I'm not good enough to take out into this room full of people and introduce myself. So I create somebody, because I'm no good. I heard a guy talk about we were raised in shame, and that the difference between shame and guilt is really quite simple. This guy said he'll take guilt any day of the week over shame, because if he's guilty, it means he did something and he can do something about it. It's that simple. But if he's shamed, it means something's wrong with him, and it's unfixable. And it's unfixable. And you say, you know, if you're sitting out there with my mind, right? My mind saying, hey, I don't want to hear no shit about those feelings, man. Let's talk about sobriety. What have feelings got to do with sobriety? I mean, they never really tampered with my feelings. I was allowed to grow up knowing what I felt. Did you ever hear this one? You don't have to go to the bathroom. Oh, shit, I thought God damn if I don't. What's that? So if you think you got here tamper-proof, man, you may want to look at it, you know, because if they hit you on that one, that's a basic, right? And if they've told you you're wrong about that one, guess how you feel about the rest of them. Anytime you feel anything. All right, anyhow. Feelings to me are so important today. You know, and I was 17 years sober, sitting in AA meetings, 17 years sober, recognized junior AA guru, right? Somebody would get up at an AA meeting, a participation meeting, and they'd say, gee, today I went into work and I said, you know, and my boss said, to me, and it really hurt my feelings. I was 17 years sober and did not know what they meant when they said they had their feelings hurt. I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. I was so armored, man, so protected, so into performance, preparation. One of the things that happened to me that I learned about myself is by not being able to get in touch with my feelings, I'm unable to be spontaneous. And if I'm unable to be spontaneous, then I got to give control over to my mind, which wants it anyway, right? I mean, have you ever heard your mind say, turn it over? No. The mind may let go a little bit when you drop to your knees in the middle of the room in the worst pain you've ever been in your life and scream, oh, fuck it, I can't take another second. And the mind says, well, you weakling, you son of a bitch, you know. We'll give you a day's rest here. Then we'll get back to work. Doing this program like it should be done. Serious. You haven't earned the right to have fun yet. So the mind, now if my mind wants control, my mind has a lot of problems apparently. One of its problems is it never wants to go anywhere or experience anything it hasn't done before. Now that'll really limit your life. That's why most drug addicts who grow up in Los Angeles can't get past Pomona. Forget Europe, you know. They can't get out of L.A. County, man, because the mind won't go, you know. And the mind, you see, what the mind wants to do, the mind must know where it's going, what they're going to be wearing when it gets there, how they're going to talk. what the whole agenda is so that it can prepare itself. Usually, my mind, by the time it's done preparing itself, the event is over. Okay? There's no longer necessity for me to go. And you say, well, so what? So I can't be spontaneous. Well, here's an interesting so what. If you're trying to live a sober life, walking hand in hand with God on a moment-to-moment, one day at a time basis, one of the essential requirements of that way of life is spontaneity. Spontaneity. Talk to any spiritual leaders. Talk to any prophets. Talk to any mystics. Talk to any of them. Read their books. And the one message you're going to get is that you must have the ability to change. You must have the ability to turn left when your life comes to a halt. And you know, it's like people say, geez, how do you tell God's will? It's a breeze, man. It is an absolute breeze. Go out the door in the morning and start moving. Now that's hard, I know, okay? I mean, I know how hard it is getting out of bed. Forget getting out the door, okay? I understand that. But if you get out the door, start moving. If you hit a wall, turn left. That's how complicated God's will is. Of course, people always say, well, what if God wants you, right? I know you got, the minds are out there saying, what if God wants you to go right? You know. Watch carefully. If you're going straight ahead and you hit a wall and you turn left, you hit another wall, you turn left, you hit another wall, you turn left again, you're now going right. But my experience has been, I get up, get out of the house, I get moving, I hit the wall, and I just sort of stand there. It's like, well, Jesus, it's not what I had in mind. But then again, there's not a lot of distraction here either. You know, it's, well, we'll stay a little while, you know. I've heard say the only difference between a grave and a rut is the dimensions. The other thing we'll do is we will hit the wall like this and we'll say, oh, wait, no, that's not what I had in mind. We'll get 150 yards back and get a run at it, right? Or we'll hit that sucker full bore and we will go through that wall to prove to God, man, and everybody else and our sponsors that they're all full of shit, right? And my experience has always been I'm sitting in a garbage dump on the other side of the wall saying, not what I envisioned. Not at all what I had envisioned. So if you're dealing that from the brain, and the brain wants control, and the feelings are what will allow you to be spontaneous, it seems that there's some problems here. And my contention is, we don't talk about feelings in AA. My experience has been, I mean, I would rather see, instead of, a decanter of coffee and an ashtray in front of every spot at the discussion meeting when they light the candles, a box of Kleenex. I would like to know that people are going to sit at the table and go, oh my God, it's been such a fucking day, I can't tell you how bad it's shit. You know, and somebody's going to say, I understand, my God, I've had the same kind of day. And somebody else is going to laugh because they feel great. But one of the problems with that whole thing is, and we will make fun of people here who express their feelings. I mean, I don't know if you guys do it here, but we got a thing in West Los Angeles. It's so goddamn sick, I can't even believe it. Somebody will get up and express an honest feeling, and people will go, oh. Right? I mean, here it is, somebody struggles to just say, I'm scared. And then they got to listen to some meathead go, oh. Right? Well, unfortunately, it's not his fault. He's just saying, I don't want to deal with my feelings, so I don't want you to deal with your feelings. You know, there are no bad people here. No, they don't, but you do. And that's a good bear, I can tell. I'm a bear expert. One of the other problems that happens if you don't have any feelings is it's very difficult to have a relationship with another human being. All right? Experienced in this phase of recovery, the problem is that if I don't have feelings to give, I must then put together a collection of things. All of these, of course, are devised intellectually. They may be carried out physically or verbally, but they are intellectually created. So in essence, what I did in my life is I worked out, let's just talk about sobriety. Forget before the program. In sobriety, I found myself, I had like a vaudeville routine when it came to dealing in relationships. I had like 3 songs I'd sing and 3 dances. I do, right? And that was my full suitcase full of tricks, right? That was the extent of Bob. All right, that's all Bob had to give. Well, now when you first meet, none of the routine is necessary because most of us come together like 2 locomotives in the night, you know, right? You disappear for 3 weeks. Nobody sees you, either one of you. 3 to 6 weeks later, you surface. The sponsors are nuts. Nobody knows where anybody is. I don't know, she left the meeting with a guy on a motorcycle with a beard. She'll never be back, right, you know? My God, I thought she was a toast burner from Scottsdale. How the hell did she ever pick him? You know, I mean, it's like, right? So after you surface with this new relationship, to no support from anybody, you know, right? Now the relationship goes on for a few days, and then one day the girl would look over at me and go, so I'd dance my first dance. That's all the hell I knew how to do, you know. And my first dance might be because she's so special, I would take her to a secluded, magic, special, incredibly wonderful romantic hideaway where I had only been 37 times before with 37 other people. But it wasn't that I was a bad guy, it's just that's all I knew. See, I didn't have any feelings to give the person, so I had to give routines and you know, actions. Well, this keeps going on in the relationship to where, you know, after you dance your first dance, a little more while time goes by, and then, by God, there they are again. So I'd sing my first song, and then I'd have to dance another dance, and eventually I would run out. The only other thing that changed in sobriety is that 5 years I surrendered to God, and I started to make a lot of money, so I had one more dance. I now could give them a credit card, you know, to go shopping with. No one can shop like a woman who's emotionally dissatisfied. Man, they can take that American Express gold card, sail that sucker through Saks Fifth Avenue like a frisbee, you know. Whoever catches it can use it first, you know. But after I had done my 4 dances now and my 3 songs, there comes another morning. And on this another morning, they go, and I go, I got nothing left. I got no more left to give you. There's nothing there to give you. Now you've asked me for something, and I don't have it to give, and I hate your guts. Because you have made me look at something that I don't want to see. This relationship is over. Now I'm not saying anything. I'm not telling you that, because if I could tell you that, I'd have feelings and I could have talked to you long before now, right? Now, I got to get rid of you. And there's only one way I know. I only know a couple of ways. One is silence. I get quiet. I use my dad's method. Don't talk to anybody for 3 fucking years, you know. Or zone out in front of the TV, but I just cease to exist, right? I might even move you into a brand new house. And I'm very careful to make sure it's a house you like, because I'm the only one that knows you're going to be living there alone, all right? Because I'm going to be leaving. And all this is not because I'm some kind of maniac on the loose in the streets or some kind of bad guy. It's because I'm not in touch with my feelings. Nobody has nurtured me. Nobody has taught me my feelings are okay. Nobody's taught me I'm okay. So man, when I feel opposite of what you feel, I got to do one of two things. Run away or convince you that you're not feeling what you're feeling. That's the only way I know how to handle it. So if you tell me you're upset with me, I'm going to tell you miss your children. No, it ain't me. You miss your kids. That's what it's about. That's another little aspect that can come from not being in touch with your feelings. Another problem that can arise from not being in touch with your feelings is mourning. Most of us do so well in the mornings. I am one of these, like most that I know, that I'm acquainted with, that I care about, who has the mind that stays awake, waiting for daybreak. And the minute I open my eyes in the morning, the mind is sitting there on the headboard and it says, "Oh, good. I've been waiting to talk to you." Always pay careful attention to two things, if you would. One, the mind will either say one of two things. It will talk to you and say, "I've been waiting to talk to you," or it will say, "We should do this," right? Or "We shouldn't do that." Now, if your mind was all there is to you, if that's all there is, it wouldn't have to talk to you. You'd be like an automaton. You'd just get up and march through the day, and there would be no thought process required, because there would be nobody living inside of you for the mind to talk to. What the mind has got to deal with is this little guy inside who has feelings. So the mind is always saying, "Oh, good, I'm glad you're awake," what it's saying to the little guy that lives inside of you. "You didn't get enough sleep. You're in trouble. I don't think I'd go to work as tired as you are if I was you. But if you don't go to work, you're probably going to lose your job. You've missed too much time. You better go in. As tired as you are, it won't do you any good, though, because you're going to screw up and they're going to fire you. Now that you lost your job, you've got real problems here, because you probably don't have enough money to last you 6 weeks, so you're also going to be broke. Oh, yeah, and by the way, that bump just below your knee is bone cancer. How are you going to handle that? Are you going to go to meetings and talk about it, or just stay home, be chicken shit, and rot to death, you know? No wonder we don't jump up and greet the day, man. You know, 5 seconds into a brand new day, you're unemployed, poverty-stricken, and dying from cancer, right? Forget you might want to joyously go about a day. The mind has no time for that. Okay. Back to 4 years sober. 4 years sober, I was having a small problem. One was I had no working relationship with God. The reason I had no working relationship with God is I didn't trust Him. I didn't trust Him. Because everybody in AA kept saying, "God as you understand Him. God as you understand Him." And I kept envisioning this old man sitting there in a throne with a book, keeping score. And I wasn't even. So as I was rolling into my 4th birthday, and actually my 5th. No, my 4th. That's right. No, where was I on my 4th birthday? Oh, I remember where I was on my 4th birthday. I was the epitome of AA success. You would have been proud to hold me up at any meeting as an example of 4 years of sobriety. I didn't have any place to live. I'd just been bankrupt through the courts. I didn't own an automobile. Hadn't been in a relationship in so long I couldn't even get anybody to go to coffee with me. they begin to sense the energy, you know, no matter what you say, they won't believe you, you know. I just thought you might like to talk about the third step, you know, and help your program out a little bit, you know. They won't go. And I was working in a car wash for $1.25 an hour. I had started at $1.35, so all in all, it wasn't a resounding success. An Eskimo drove through the car wash and gave me another job, and I worked on this other job for about a year. And when I was rolling into my 5th birthday in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I was so busy running away from the goddamn feelings, I was so terror-stricken, I sat in my living room 2 months away from birthday number 5, and I wanted to die. I wanted to die. Not kill myself. That would have been an improvement in the depression. Just wanted to sit on that bed and die. That's it. No more. Out of total desperation, I looked at the ceiling in my room and I screamed at the top of my lungs. I said, "If you're not there, I'm fucked." Then I just kind of waited, you know, like, because I had always figured I couldn't talk to God until I got the right words. I always figured I had to have the proper metaphysical terminology to petition God to assist me in my life, right? Next day I went to work, placed a brand new Allen head wrench into a brand new Allen head bolt. They had just been machined for each other. It will not slip under any circumstances. It slipped. I went backwards against one of the furnaces, crushed 2 vertebrae in my back, was taken to the emergency hospital in Van Nuys. I'm laying in the emergency hospital. My back was already a mess. Doctors are telling me I can't work at that job anymore. I can't stand long periods of time. All that bullshit. Finally, all the doctors walk out of this little cubicle, and my mind says to me, "Huh? See? I told you, you dumb son of a bitch. You surrendered to God last night. Today you broke your back." But a little guy who lived down here inside of me screamed at my mind. He said, "Why don't you shut up?" And I thought, God, yeah, I think I will. I'm so tired, you know? So I decided that maybe breaking my back wasn't a bad deal. You know? My mind is always trying to figure out what's good and what's bad. Oh, that's good for you, that's bad for you. That's good for you, that's bad for you. That's bad, no, that's bad, that's good, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. It's got no framework on which to base its judgments, none. Has no information, none, but it must put things in neat little boxes that it understands. It thinks all white people are alike, all black people are alike, all tall people are alike, all red cars are alike. I mean, it just cannot stand anything like freedom. It wants nothing to do with freedom. So my mind has convinced me that breaking my back is punishment. This other part of me, and I don't even know what it is, like a small child is saying, "Hey, maybe everything's okay. What do you know?" So I decide, maybe everything's okay. How the hell do I know? So I go about doing the things. I just decided I would make my life really simple. I would do what was put in front of me and just go about life like it's okay. Forget the fact that I'm wearing braces on my back and harnesses and all this shit. You know, walking like this, I just decided, okay, I don't know. I don't know what's bad. Maybe it's fine. 6 months later, after a lot of very, very bad experiences with vocational rehabilitation, seems if you have more than one personality, they don't know how to deal with you. You know. By the time you're on your 5th aptitude test and you're coming up something new one more time. They want to send me to 4 years of UCLA to become a social worker. You know, they're going to get me my high school equivalency test and then send me to 4 years of UCLA. I said to my counselor, I said, "Look, the state of California at one time in my life said I'm a homicidal social psychopath. I have never seen that as a prerequisite for social work. Maybe you're missing the point here. I don't like people. You know, I don't care. I don't want to be a social worker." So I went through 6 months of this bullshit, and finally one night I'm reading TV Guide, and it says, "Would you like to be a writer?" And this little guy inside says, "Let's do that." the mind goes berserk. Ah, you can't spell, for Christ's sakes, you know. One more waste of time, you're going to jerk off the state now, you know. I mean, you're just no fucking good at all, man. You can't write, you can't spell, you failed English ever since the 4th grade. Wait, the little guy inside says, let's try it. Let's try it. One of the classic lines I've heard is some guy in Southern California, he went to his sponsor and he said, well, you know, I was looking through all these books at home, and he says, I really would like to be a lawyer. You know, I'd like to go to school and become a lawyer, but by the time I graduate, I'll be 44 years old. His sponsor looked at him and said, how old will you be then if you don't graduate? If you're like I am, you're going to discover there's only one person in your whole life working against you. You. Nobody else has the energy, or no one else can even hate you that much. To spend that kind of time trying to wipe your life out, right? Only your own mind will always be there to say, no, no, nothing new, no, no. No, no, we've been at this job 15 years, it's good enough. I don't care if you're throwing up every day when you come in. It's just because you're chicken shit. If you worked a better AA program, you wouldn't have this reaction to the people at work. So anyhow, I become a writer. I sit down, write something, I turn it into a studio, they buy it, and the next 12 years go by, and I get a lot of acclaim from people as a television writer, and I make a lot of money as a television writer, and I roll into my 17th year of sobriety, and one more time, nothing has changed. The surroundings are better. I live in a penthouse apartment at the beach. I drive an expensive automobile. One more gorgeous young girlfriend, one more time looking, and I'm, you know, right? or giving out the credit cards, and nothing had changed. So this friend said to me, I think you should go see a therapist. Now, I'd always been open-minded to therapy. If you were someone I sponsored and came to me and said that you needed the assistance of a therapist, I fired you immediately. I said, obviously, A and I aren't sufficient in your recovery, go find somebody else. That's how open-minded I was. Shows what a little fear of the truth will do for you. I had no choice. I was 17 years sober, and I couldn't think of anything else to do, guys. Nothing else to do. I had driven over 40,000 goddamn AA miles a year. I was flying tens of thousands of AA miles a year. I had written 32 goddamn inventories in Alcoholics Now. No son of a bitch in the world could come up to me and say, what step are you working on now? You know, I mean, forget it. I sponsored half of Southern California, for Christ's sakes. I remember taking 20 guys to dinner, all of whom I sponsored, to break bread with my brothers, a spiritual evening, right? I was picking up the check. I remember telling my therapist that one out. I was a spiritual giant, taking all these guys to dinner, picking up the checks, sharing God's wealth. She said that, or somebody doesn't want to eat alone. Uncomfortable moment. Because when I stopped picking up the check, nobody showed up for dinner. I couldn't understand what the hell happened. I thought I was such a wonderful guy. Anyhow, I went to see a lady. I figured that was my problem. This lady says to me, okay, tell me a little bit about yourself. Start with your childhood and just tell me a little bit about yourself. I said, well, when I was 15 years of age, they threw me out of Manual Arts High School. I discovered the wonderful world of narcotics and alcohol. I spent the next 11 years of my life running the streets, smuggling narcotics from Mexico into the United States. And I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, when I was 26 years of age, and I've been clean and sober for 17 years. She said, no, wait a minute. I said, start with your childhood. You were not born at 15. So I don't remember it. I can remember two things. I can remember falling out of a second-story window when I was 3 years old into a cement gutter on my head, 2 stories below. And I remember winning a gold medal in the Junior Olympics and crying And I don't even remember what I did with the medal or what happened to it. And I don't even remember what I won it in, but I remember them giving me the medal. And she gets this great look that therapists get, you know. And I used to think, I never could understand the look, and it was just explained to me a couple of weeks ago. The person can see in the person in front of them the potential that's untapped. They know that living inside, she knew that living inside of me was a really beautiful human being who I hadn't met yet, who I knew nothing about. And we went to work, and we began to go back to find out what happened in this childhood. You know, why couldn't I remember 15 years of my life, okay? Like I said, standard household, one alcoholic, one co-alcoholic, you know. Bottom line, anytime anybody says that doesn't matter, my opinion is, do not kid yourself for 1 second. Just, oh, well, anyhow, let's get on. I remember walking through, you know, one of the tragedies of AA is we have a policy here, apparently, at least in Southern California, we throw AA cliches around like people throw frisbees, right? We pay no attention to who we're throwing it to. I remember being less than a year sober, walking through an AA meeting, talking to some guy, saying to this guy I'm walking with, God, you know, my old man was really a rotten, drunken son of a bitch. Some old-timer who isn't even in the goddamn conversation, sitting off to the side, says, hey, son, enough of that. Your parents did the best job they could with the tools they had. Forgive them now. I mean, you're 3 goddamn months sober, right? I thought about it for a minute. Intellectually, that makes perfect sense. If I've got a screwdriver and the job requires a hammer, that's it. I'm done, right? You know, so they only had certain tools, so that's it. But now a small problem arose. I went to visit the family for Christmas. Walk up to the house, carrying more presents than I can afford. They'll love me someday. Closer to the house I get, the more uncomfortable I become. My first sober Christmas, one would think I'd be, I'm like, you know, get in the house, sit down with family. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. Goddamn furniture is the same. It's in the same places it's always been in. The same uncles that have been drunk for 25 years are still drunk this Christmas. The same fat uncle that broke my electric train when I was 5 has just busted a chair. You know, he was sitting in. Nothing has changed. They're telling the same jokes they've told every Christmas for 25 goddamn years. Everybody's got tight little faces all knotted up talking about how wonderful things is and how happy they are and what a son of a bitch their neighbor is because he just got more money than they got. And, you know, I mean, and I'm like sitting there, Christmas, and I want Rolaids bad because the stomach is going and the throat is closing rapidly. I can't even talk, and I'm thinking, Jesus, what's wrong? This is Mom, this is Dad, this is family, this is it. Everything's supposed to be wonderful here. What the hell is going on, right? And then a voice says, hey, we have a solution to the whole problem. If you can go out and pick up a used flamethrower at an Army surplus place, you can torch the whole goddamn house, right? I get a moment of relief from that. And now I have a new AA voice which says, boy, you're the sickest son of a bitch that ever lived, man. How can you think thoughts like that about your family? So I go through a couple of years of Christmas like I can't spend 12 minutes. I don't know how long you spend Christmas with your family, but I'm like 12 minutes in the house and I'm saying, I got a newcomer I got to go pick up on on the corner down here. I'll see you. I'm really sorry I can't stay. Goodbye, man. I'm gone, right? And I'm feeling like something's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? This is family. This is mother and father. This is honor thy mother and father. This is them, man. And why am I so goddamn miserable? What's wrong with me? And I write more inventories and work more steps and go to more meetings. Well, now my therapist and I, we begin to dig back into my childhood. And I'll just go for one thing. I had begun slowly to learn to take care of myself. When I was 10 years sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, I married a woman that I loved very, very much. We had been dating for 2 years, and we cared deeply. And we were married in January, and in February we found out she had cancer, and in April she died, 4 months after we were married. And she had refused all forms of orthodox treatment. In other words, toxic treatment. She did not want a treatment that could kill her. If the treatment could kill her, she said, no, I'm not interested. So we found ourselves, and this was 12 years ago, seeking other methods of treatment for cancer. And everybody we came in contact with who treated cancer non-toxically, the very first thing they wanted out of her diet was red meats, pork and beef, immediately, and caffeine and sugar and cigarettes. And it's like, so after she passed away, we were big meat eaters and smokers, and I was right in there with the gang. So after she passed away, the very first thing I gave up was meat. That was easy. I mean, I had heard so much about it in the 3 months that we were trying to keep her alive that it was like, easy to walk away from that one. It's been 12 years now. Coffee was also easy. That came next, because I got up one morning, tried to drink a cup, and my throat closed. I guess my body was saying, guess what? You have just drank your lifetime supply of coffee, and you're only 38 years old, and you can have no more now for as long as you live. So coffee was gone. A couple of years went by, and I'm working, I'm writing, and I'm researching a story on suicide. And I'm down at the Suicide Prevention Center, and I'm in this, their boardroom, their meeting room, with all these people gathered around this table, and I take out my Marlboros, and light one up, and take a drag, and I look around, and there's this whole boardroom, there's not one ashtray. Now, any smoker knows he's in deep trouble, right? Some guy at the end of the room says, oh, an ashtray. Wait a minute, I'll get one. Out he goes into the outer office, banging drawers and closets and shit. And, they make 10 tons of noise. They come back in with a platter that would hold a whole fish, right? They put this platter down in front of you, and then, and you sit there sort of, thank you. And then the then head of suicide prevention says to me, we have an official opinion on cigarette smoking if you're interested. I say, yeah, sure, what is it? That was before the mind got a chance to, This guy looks at me, he said, now that the facts are in and it is recognized that it is reality that cigarette smoking will kill you, it will take your life, we view cigarette smoking to be covert suicide. It is a little tiny gun with a little tiny bullet. Right? Now, I didn't quit smoking that minute, all right? It was 6 months later I quit, but I want to tell you something, man. That was not a fun 6 months, boy. Because every time you take out a cigarette and you light it, you can hear the goddamn gun go off. It's like, yeah. So the cigarettes went, right? That was about over 7 years ago. Well, now, I don't know if you know it, but tobacco is cured in sugar. And we have a small problem with sugar anyway, because first we cut our heroin with it, we cut our speed with it, it's in all alcohol, right? So we've consumed a lot of sugar. Now I'm not smoking, I discovered sugar, okay? I'm talking, it was as bad as morphine addiction. It was great, man. And I treated it just like drug addiction. I'd be sitting home alone quietly in the evening in Montecito at about 10:50 in the evening saying, we won't eat any pralines and cream tonight. We'll just sit here and have a piece of fruit, watch the news. 10:55, I'm out the door, in the car, 90 miles an hour down Santa Ynez Road, skid to a stop in front of 31 Flavors, run through as the guy's coming from the other side with the keys to lock the door, right? Buy my quart of pralines and cream, my jar of butterscotch topping, my jar of dry roasted cashews. And when I go under, I fucking go under, right? Take this mess home and make an ice cream sundae out of it and eat it. It's also good if your relationship's in trouble, because 15 minutes after you eat it, if you're hypoglycemic, you're unconscious anyway. So now you don't have to deal with your partner, Well, what's that, dear? What'd you say? Yeah, I love you. Everything's great, man. I got news for you. You know, if you're in a sugar reaction, it don't matter what step you're working. You can be working all 12 at once. But, well, if you eat ice cream like that, you run into a small problem, right? About 40 pounds, exactly. So I forget, I bought 36 or 38-inch pants. I can't remember what the last pants I bought were, but they wouldn't fasten either. And I was into that wearing Hawaiian shirts out in the winter, you know, I mean, doing everything. And when I couldn't get these pants fastened, I said to myself, that's it, sucker. That's it. These are the biggest pants you are ever going to own, okay? So do what you want, but this is it. So after a while, somebody turned me on to red apples instead of sugar, so I began to eat red apples. Well, by the time I'm ready to go to the therapist, now I'm also getting into a little exercise. Some friends are going to teach me how to run. Small problem with running. My body has been very badly damaged over the years. I guess it has a lot to do with carrying weapons and having a bad attitude. I don't know what it is. But both legs aren't the same length and feet go different directions and vertebrae have been fused together and the pelvis has been snapped in half and put back together. All in all, it's not what you'd call, you know, a perfect body. So I would go out to run and I couldn't run well because I wobbled a lot. You know, I mean, I just didn't, you know, I didn't have that look like I wanted to have, you know, I mean. Of course, the adolescent that lived inside of me is dying because I look so bad. You know, he wants to look good at all costs. He'll die rather than look bad, you know. So a friend of mine says to me, he says, look, man, number one, let's get the feet going straight, right? There's a doctor in Long Beach who's the best at what he does. Go see him. He'll make you a couple of things for your feet. You put them in your shoes. We'll get your feet going straight, and we'll work on the rest of the body. Of course, I couldn't drive to this doctor in Long Beach because he was too far away, so I went to some quack in Century City who almost crippled me, okay? Because, see, I'll drive you to the doctor in Long Beach because you're worth it. But I won't drive me to the doctor in Long Beach because I'm not worth it, okay? So I go finally, after almost being crippled, I go to this doctor in Long Beach, and I'm with this podiatrist, this foot guy, and he looks at my right foot, and he says, what the hell happened to your foot when you were a kid? I said, sure, I don't know. Why? He says, well, it's practically a club foot. He says, it's rolled clear over on the side, and he says it's biomechanical. It's not a birth thing. I says, God, I don't know. And I left his office, and I'm driving home from Long Beach, and I'm upset. And I'm sick at my stomach, and I'm angry, and I don't know what I'm angry at. I don't know why I'm sick at my stomach, and I don't know what the hell's going on. And I get home, and I sit down, and I'm perspiring, and I'm uncomfortable, and I'm mad, and I want to pace, and I want to hit a wall, and I don't know what the hell I want to do. The phone rings. It's my mother. I love God's timing. God's timing is so impeccable. And my mother had just come from her foot doctor, who had not cut her nails straight, and she's complaining. And so I said to her, I said, wait, while we're on the subject of feet, what happened to mine, you know, when I was little? So, well, nothing. She said, you had very, very high arches when you were a little boy, and she said it required a special shoe, but a very expensive special shoe, but nothing happened. And in the next 3 minutes of conversation, she repeated at least 5 more times how expensive these shoes were for this high arch problem. So the next day I go see my therapist and I'm nuts. Don't know why I'm nuts, I just know I'm nuts. And I tell her the story and she said, well, let's go back. Let's see what we can find. So what we found was a 2.5-year-old little boy standing in a hallway in a building in Denver, Colorado, with tears streaming down his face, and he's talking to his mother, and he's pointing to his right foot, and he's telling his mother that the shoe was too small and it hurts really bad. It hurts so bad he's crying. And his mother says to him, shh, be quiet. If you talk too loud, your father will hear you, and he'll be mad. I went the next day to the foot doctor and I said, could this foot have been caused by wearing shoes designed for high arches that were too small? He said, absolutely, that's probably it. And a light bulb went on. I suddenly realized that if at 2.5 years old I'm not worth buying shoes for that fit, I must not be worth very much. And I looked at my whole life, man, and I could see that's exactly how I treated me. All right? Like when I buy running shoes today, I have to buy 2 pairs. I have to buy 10s for one foot and 9s for the other. I don't wear 9.5s anymore. No more. I take care of the kid. That's right. And I found that we sit around here, you know, and nobody says anything. And these halls are filled with damaged children. Little children, man. There's a little child in all of us. That's the best thing that happened to me. In 5.5 years of therapy, I was introduced to a little boy who lives inside of me, who is the cutest little kid you ever saw in your life, and he's just been waiting for a goddamn chance to live. That's all he wanted. And if you don't think I'm not, I mean, did you see how this guy took to the teddy bear? My wife gave him the teddy bear, man, and he took the bear and held the bear. Now, in a room full of people, macho with tattoos hold a teddy bear. See, the macho doesn't know what the fuck's going on because the kid took the bear. The kid inside says, oh yeah, a teddy bear. I know this to be true because I have got probably 50 teddy bears at home. There's 2 in my hotel room now. I just went back after dinner to brush my teeth and they were really pissed because the maids turned the TV off. I went in the room, they said, hey, fix the TV. So, I mean, if you're sitting around here and you're raised like most of us and beaten half to death or tied up or tortured in closets or sexually abused by your parents or by your elders or whatever the hell went on, or just totally ignored and grew up in a silence, in that wonderful house of silence where no noise is allowed of any kind, and children are meant only to be seen and never heard under any circumstances, and the pain is so great you can't stand it. You may want to look at it. You see, because I discovered an interesting thing in the 12 steps. In the 5th step, it says the exact nature of our wrongs. The exact nature. You might want to look those words up in the dictionary. Exact in nature. I ain't going to tell you, man. You're going to have to do it yourself. And you might discover that just saying that you punch some guy out when you're drunk might not cover it. Just might not cover it. If you want the exact nature, we might want to find out why you're so angry. Okay? Why were you so mad? Why were you there in the first place? Whatever it was, what was the reason behind it? Because I've only discovered who I am by finding the reasons behind. By discovering that little guy standing there with the shoe that didn't fit, I found me. I discovered me. And I have a picture of me on the TV set at home. I'm about 2.5, and I'm in a little blue sailor suit, and I got this blonde curly hair, and I got this dumb expression on it. Just, you know, nobody's gotten me yet. You know, it's like, just that great free expression of a kid. And next to it is a picture of me taken about 1.5 years ago, off guard. I didn't know somebody was taken, and I'm a full-grown adult, and I have the same expression on my face. Same expression. You know, anything but cool. Now understand, if you begin this process of looking inside, if your experience is like mine, you'll discover 4 people. The mind stays, unfortunately. It gets down to 1 voice. That's a gift. From somewhere between 13 and 26 voices to 1, let me tell you, that's fucking peace of mind, boy. You know. I mean, it's not like, at least in the morning when you're driving into work, it's not like having a whole carload of unruly kids, you know, that don't want to go. So, you know. There's only 1 voice saying, oh, we don't want to do this, you're too upset, that, you know. That I can handle. You'll also meet this child. You'll meet the child, and the child is so wonderful. My child guides my life now, see, because one of the things I discovered is the intuition of the child is perfect. And I always thought my intuition was wrong, because nobody ever, I mean, little kids are great, and they get fucked over all the time, right? Like family gatherings, you know, little Johnny will be going across the living room towards Uncle Bill, you know. He'll go back. You think everybody will leave Johnny alone? Hell no. Come on, Johnny. Uncle Bill's a nice guy. Come on, Johnny. Go see Uncle Bill, right? I mean, we don't know. Maybe Uncle Bill's got 25 bodies of children buried in his goddamn garage, you know. We don't know, but let the kid, because the kid knows. His intuition is perfect. Perfect. And I'm delighted to find out that my child's intuition is still perfect. And hearing from a couple of spiritual people not long ago was a delight. They said, get to know the child well, because God will speak to you only through that child. For that child is God. Well, I don't know how to find him without finding my feelings. Now, the other person I discovered when I discovered the child was the adolescent. We all know who he is, don't we, guys? As we wear our jeans that are 3 sizes too small and get in our goddamn sports car and drive down the street, you know, with whiplash. Cruise to high school and hope to Christ we don't get caught, you know. At least by anybody on the program. I can remember I used to run at this high school, and some mornings I could see all the girls in the gym class and view them as just young ladies about to blossom into womanhood who were children. Other mornings they were potential dates, you know. It was from... On those mornings I knew it was going to be a long day. I'll tell this one story. My adolescent came to me. I had a 4-door sedan. I was getting ready to get rid of it, and my adolescent said, I want a Corvette. I said, no, man, I don't want a Corvette. He said, I want a Corvette. They're long and sleek and low and neat, and they look terrific, and I want a Corvette. And I said, I'd look silly in a Corvette. He says, oh, no, man, you look great in a Corvette. We got to have a Corvette. So I thought for a minute. I said, okay, you know, you had it hard enough, man, as a teenager, and nobody really ever loved you. And I do love you, and I'll get you a Corvette. I'll get you a Corvette. And I got him a Corvette. Not quite the color he wanted. I bought a soft beige. He had more white with red flames in mind, I think. But he got his Corvette. But now we have trouble in the family, you see, because the children in the car are like dogs, right? I mean, you know, out the window, okay? So the Corvette has T-roofs on it, right? The kid wants the T-roofs off, man, off, so he can look around. The adolescent has a serious problem with that because the wind blows his hair. Right? So when he gets where he's going, his hair looks like shit. He can't stand it, you know, so he wants the T-roofs on at all times, right? The compromise was I went out and bought a hairbrush and a spray bottle of water so we could take the T-roofs off for the child, then fix the adolescent's hair when we got him there so he'd look okay, you know. Anyway, the adolescent was unable to keep his foot from the floorboards, and after he ran me into a signed risk, and they sent me a letter saying, we're not only going to take your driver's license, we're going to keep you off the roads forever if you get one more ticket. I had to sell his Corvette. But I was a loving parent to my own teenager. He asked me for a Corvette, and I got him one. He fucked up, we took it away. But he had a chance. More than he had ever had at any other time in his life. He had a chance. And I guess if I'm trying to say anything tonight, it's that we all have a chance, and my best chance has come since I've got in touch with what I feel. Well, how have things changed? I'll give you an example of, well, what does therapy do? How do things change? Yada, 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 right? I mean, I know what the mind gets like when it's confronted with the truth. And you ever notice how when you hear the truth, the mind goes nuts, but there's a little part down inside of you that knows it's the truth and says, oh, yes. And the mind says, no. Don't be listening to that nonsense. Here a few months back, Lois had been really sick for a while and feeling really under the weather. She came up to me one day in the living room. She said, I feel distance between us. I've been hearing that since I was in a goddamn sandbox, right? And I always have a brilliant answer when you confront me with something emotional. I don't know how the hell can you feel distance? I'm standing 3 feet from you. You ever get, I mean, your mouth goes and you wish you could stop it, but it goes anyway, you know, you sort of stand behind it and listen to it talk and wish it would shut up, you know. It's like, Oh no, please, not another word. I'm already in enough trouble, you know. She said, no, I feel distance. I said, there can't be any distance. I mean, look what I'm doing. I'm going to the drugstore, I'm getting the medicine, I'm doing this, getting here, doing this, doing that. And she says, wait a minute. She said, that's custodial care. I can get that from a nurse. I feel distance. And I said, okay, let me just go away. So and I went off to the bathroom. Less than 5 minutes, I'm back in the living room, tears streaming down my face. Now, 5 years ago, those would have been fighting words and the end of the relationship, because she would have asked me for something I didn't have. And I looked at her with the tears streaming down my face, and I said, you're absolutely right. There is distance between us. And I said, I'll tell you why there's distance between us. There's distance because the last time I was with somebody I really cared about, and they got sick, they died. And there's a little guy inside of me that remembers the grief. He remembers sitting locked up in an apartment all by himself for 5 days in tears in the corner. He remembers pounding on the floors. He remembers unable to breathe. He remembers the terror and the sadness of the pain of losing somebody he loved, who loved him. And he don't want to go. He don't want to play this time. And he put on his running shoes and his little hat, and he took a walk. I said, so what you're getting is all there is to get from me. So you're going to have to look to the therapist, or your friends, or to God, or other places, because I don't have any more than what you're getting. What a goddamn relief. 2 whole people in a room talking about something. I don't have to go blow my brains out because I can't deliver what she needs. And I also don't have to beat her up and tell her she doesn't need what she needs, or she's not feeling what she's feeling. I can just be okay. I can stand there, not have what she needs, and be okay. I'm still okay. I'm not a failure as a human being. Okay, 2 minutes and we'll wrap this goddamn thing up. This ends at 10, doesn't it? Somebody tell me? 10? Right, okay. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm absolutely, totally, thoroughly convinced that good mental health is, well, there was 2 studies that have been done recently. You'll love this one. Now I'll ruin your fucking evening if I haven't already. A serious study was done into why alcoholics drink after a continuous period of sobriety, and the conclusion arrived by this one study is nutrition. They eat junk. And if you eat shit, you feel like shit, and you can only stay depressed for so long, and you will seek a solution that has worked before. Fun, isn't it? Really neat. I know, man. I know. I don't know how many people have heard me tell the story about the travelers. Let me tell it then. That's good. I took 4 guys to an AA meeting once. 2 were psychiatrists. Forget them. I took 2 travelers. These 2 travelers, they were good guys and they liked AA and all that, but they thought it was an intellectual program. These 2 travelers were in their 40s. They had been raised since birth. They had never smoked a cigarette, never drank coffee, never tasted a Diet Cola, never eaten meat, never eaten sugar, had no idea what narcotics or alcohol or anything else were. 40-some years old, all they had done was walk this path of light and love and God. That's all they knew. Brought them to AA, their first contact with AA ever. Took them to 3 AA meetings, discussion, participation, and speaker meetings. After the 3rd meeting, we sat down and I said, tell me, what do you think? 2 of the most gentle, most beautiful, kindest men I've ever met in my life. All they do is just walk and travel. They own only what's on their back. They give what they have, and they know that they'll get everything they need, and they never doubt it, and they are never without. Because this friend of mine who called me when I went to pick them up, they were in a $2.5 million Beverly Hills house, for 3 or 4 days. So I guess it works out, just walking along the road. Anyhow, they said, well, the beauty of it is we can see that this alcoholism is a terminal illness, that it is a disease that will kill you. And they said the wonder is the people come and sit in these rooms, and by grace, they understood the program, by grace it is removed. By grace they are given another chance at life. They said, but the tragedy is that after being given another chance at life, these people are sitting in these rooms and they're continuing to kill themselves. They eat They drink coffee by the barrel. They eat sugar by the pound. They smoke cigarettes by the case. Nobody gets enough sleep. Everybody runs on a high level of anxiety, and nobody breathes. One of them caught shit for breathing in a meeting. I mean, he was a deep breather, you know. Guy next to him at AA meeting said, hey, only in AA will we tell somebody to stop breathing, you know. I don't know if you want to, you know, listen to any of this or not, but they're right. They're right. And I found out why I did it. I did it because my mind lied to me at my very first AA meeting. I sat down in my very first AA meeting in Altadena, California on the 28th of August, 1962, and my mind said to me, this is the end of the road. We have really sunk to the bottom this time. This is where you stay between drinking and using and dying. If you can't drink and use drugs anymore and you can't die, you go to AA till you can die. That's it. And I learned the lie. The lie is that this is the end, you see. And if I approach this like this is the end, I don't do anything about making it better. I now understand this is the beginning. And the number one excuse you will use, sure, absolutely. We're getting some kids in the program in LA today that are absolute knockout, right? I mean, a total blast. I met a couple of guys, they, in their lifetime, they come in here, they're eating rigid vegetarians, they drink no coffee, eat no sugar, right? None of that. They've been in India and walked with the yogis along the rivers. They've been in the Himalayas with the High Lamas. They've walked with the Tibetans. They've walked barefoot through the snow in Virginia Beach with Edgar Casey's people. And they have traveled and sought and looked and prayed and meditated and chanted and sang and been in the water and christened and baptized. And the only thing fucking with their consciousness was heroin, right? They've come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and we hand them a big book called the Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we say, here. They read that book, and they sit down, and they go to meetings, and they find out there's a solution for their heroin or alcohol addiction, and they're off of it. And about 90 days in the program, they look around, and they're great because they're walking up to these old-timers sitting there with their coffee and their cookies and their cigarette and saying, how the heck can you do that, man? And I heard an old-timer say to one of them, when you're sober as long as I am, you'll understand. Out of the mouth of babes come very wise words. The kid's answer was, I hope not. I hope not. And the tragedy is, you know, all it was is nobody ever showed me how. Oh, God, I hate to tell this, but I will. We were in St. Louis about a couple of months ago. Lois is sinking in her chair because guy there, 43 years sober, man, comes up to me, wouldn't talk to me after the meeting, talk to her, right? Can hardly breathe from emphysema, right, from smoking. Heavy, overweight, skin pale white, fleshy from just too much mucus in the body. 43 years sober, man. I mean, he's part of our goddamn history, and he's a walking dead man, and it makes me want to sit on the fucking floor and cry. Because it's a goddamn tragedy. There is no excuse for it. There's absolutely no excuse for it. The only reason I never took care of me is because I didn't know how. And I'll tell you how important this guy's life is to him after 43 years of sobriety. He heard, a week after we left St. Louis, he heard a friend of his in Kansas City was writing Lois a letter and sending her a book. He drove from St. Louis to Kansas City to give her a card about the use of foul language in a meeting to enclose. He was more concerned about my language than his life. Okay? I don't think that's okay. I don't think it's all right. I think it's a tragedy. And the number one excuse you will use to not take care of yourself, and remember, first get the feelings, because the feelings are what it's all about, but the number one excuse you'll use is it's too late. It's too late. I don't care if you're sitting out there, you're 20. You'll say, we should have started when we were 15. You know, that's too late. No time. Let me give you a little motivation, and then this is it. I believe in the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I don't know if you do, but I do. I send back all Publishers Clearinghouse envelopes. I take the Reader's Digest. I don't even read it. I send in for all the sweepstakes. Because I know one of these days, man, I am going to hit it. And I'm really into this. This is no bullshit. I'm convinced that pot of gold is like, about a year ago, I was leaving my business manager's office, and I'd been put in touch with reality, and it was really bleak. It was that I owed a lot of money and had none. And I'm driving down the street, and I look in my rearview mirror, and there's this very old Cadillac limousine behind me with a very old chauffeur with an even older old lady sitting in the back of it. And I just felt this sense of well-being because I knew the chauffeur was going to honk his horn, flash his lights, have me pull over to the curb. The little old lady was going to get out, lay a check on me for $1 million, you know, right? I'd drop into the gutter on my knees in tears to thank her in gratitude just so she knows she got the right person, right? Unfortunately, I turned left and they went straight ahead. Well, Lois is from Canada, where there's two very big differences in the lotteries there than here in our country. First major difference is they're tax-free. What you win, you get. Second major difference is you get it all at once. You're not paid off $10 million over 364 years, okay? So about a year ago, a couple in Canada hit the big one. $14 million, okay? Would definitely fix my current fiscal situation, all right? That's it. That's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, man. That's the one. That's the big one. Fixes everything. Takes care of at least all the monetary. Won't fix your emotions or your spirit, but it'll take care of the monetary. Unfortunately, the guy had not taken good care of himself in his lifetime. Although he was probably about 50-some years old, he was not in good health, and 6 weeks after he got the money, he died. Okay. Now, I'm 50, right? Now, my pot of gold may not be coming for another 20 goddamn years here, right? But I sure shit want more than 6 weeks left when it gets here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm probably in the top 1% anyway of the nation for guys 50 years of age for just condition and health and everything else. But I ain't done, guys. I ain't done. I'm just starting. I plan on being in better shape next year at 51. Better shape the year after that. A guy who got sober with me is 61 years old, man. Right now he's over on the big island of Hawaii. He's cured himself of cancer 3 goddamn times, and 61 years of age, he's entering the Ironman, and he will finish. He will swim those 2 miles, he'll bicycle 100, and he'll run 26. 23 years sober, 61 years old, and that's where he is. That's what he's doing. That's what he's about. See? And that's what I believe it's all about. Now and you say, oh God, you know, the mind will beat the shit out of you. There's a little spirit inside of us that don't know about the mind. 3 years ago, I was in Honolulu to run the marathon, and I met an incredible girl. First of all, beautiful. One of the most beautiful girls I have ever seen. Just really pretty. 5 years ago, she was training for the Honolulu Marathon in Houston, Texas. Serious runner. Went to Houston to run in the humidity, to get ready for the humidity in Hawaii. Running through the park one day in Houston, she was shot by a sniper. Picked somebody out and shot him. Bullet severed her spine. Paralyzed her from the waist down. 2 years after that accident, after she was shot, I met her in Honolulu. She was there for the wheelchair marathon. She won. She won. She didn't give it up, okay? If that story touched you, there's the same little spirit sitting in you, okay? And that little spirit can do all this stuff. All it needs to know is how. 3 years ago, I was watching a sporting event on TV, and they were interviewing this guy before the sporting event. And he was telling the interviewer that when he was 65 years old, listen, if you're telling yourself it's too late, when he was 65 years old, his son came into his bedroom and he said, Dad, we're going to have to put you into a home. And his dad said, no, I can't go to a home. I don't want to go to a home. Anything but a home. His son said, Dad, I can't keep you in the house. You're doing nothing but sitting here in this house dying. You eat garbage. You smoke cigarettes. You do nothing. It's not good for the children. It's not good for my wife. It's not good for me. We have to put you into a home.
He said, I will do anything to not go to a home. Please don't do it. His son said to him, get up tomorrow morning and come run with me. And the old man got up the next morning to go run with his son, and he lasted a quarter of a block. And at the end of a quarter of a block, he couldn't breathe, his heart was pounding out of his chest, and his legs were shaking so bad he almost fell down. And his son said to him, go home, sit down, we'll talk, but we have to do something with you. Every morning for the next 3 months, without saying a word, he got up and went out and tried again, and tried again, and tried again. And at the end of 3 months, he got to 1 mile. And when he hit 1 mile, he had that moment of clarity. And listen to what he accepted, because the acceptance here is incredible. He said to himself that if he was in this bad a condition at 65 years of age, then his whole life must have been wrong. And he became willing to change it. And he gave up the cigarettes, he gave up the junk food, he gave up the coffee, he bought books on prayer and meditation, books on positive thinking, and he kept running. The morning I was watching him be interviewed, he was 83 years of age, and he was in New York City to run his 14th New York Marathon. I happen to think all this stuff is important and has a lot to do with sobriety, and it may not be too late. God bless you.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.